And I'm going to, so far so good. It hasn't kicked me out yet. This is a good sign. Hmm. All
Vicky, instead
right.
of presenter view, if you put it in presentation, that might.
Yes, that would appear to have been the problem there. Okay. Let me try this one more time. Sorry, it's just been a week. It's another Vicky technology week, but
We're going to sign your computer up for fastest computer ever.
oh my gosh, it is. All right. Well, I'm just going to assume this is going to be what I'm going to be able to show you, and let me try sharing it. Okay, it is not showing up on my share options, but hopefully,
We got it.
let,
It's
yes.
loading.
It's
And if
starting.
it doesn't load, Vicky, I can share. It's up.
It's up.
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Um, and of course, the fun part is I'm probably going to drop it down almost immediately. But just what we're going to do today is just first some quick updates, questions, and observations from the field, underscoring as well. We want to hear from you about what is working, what is not working, what do you think could be improved. This is your opportunity in the pilot cohort to shape this process both for yourselves but also for future cohorts. So we are interested in hearing both what work is happening and where you think work might be needed. We're going to do a short presentation, a little bit on purpose-driven advising with some examples of models from the field and a little bit about an approach towards assessing your career curriculum that Brandon's going to present. And then we're going to break into small groups to talk about the purpose-driven advising and the models and what catches your eye or doesn't catch your eye. But I'm going to stop sharing so we can go back to talking together. And we'd love to hear from the institutions. How is it
How is
going?
it going? I'll start, which we talked about this the other day, yesterday, I think it was, with our relationship management meeting. We've got our what committee who's been fairly active, uploading resources and evidence. And they've had some meetings and have been inputting the things in the, what section is that called? I don't remember what the section is in the platform. Um,
In the KPIs and
the
principles.
KPIs, that's
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
The login to look at it. And then the How committee has scheduled meetings planned over the summer to do some pieces there. As far as I know, Michael is handling the How committee. Christopher, what did I say everything for what committee you're chairing that?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And your surveys are out and you've got more student responses and they have a pretty good number of faculty and staff responses and advisors responses.
Yeah, we had to incentivize. Thank you, Sarah, for that idea. As we know, students like food, so that helped.
Fantastic.
I
Thank
can
you.
I can jump in, Brooke here from Mary Baldwin. We have completed our survey and had our data review with Vicki and Brandon yesterday. So that was really helpful and actually came up in a couple of meetings that I was in today, talking about some of the first year work that we're doing, but really thinking about that data that we learned from the advising survey. And we are hosting our retreat next week. So planning that and getting everything scheduled and everybody informed about what their roles will be at the retreat. And we're looking forward to it. Carrie, what other input or updates do you have from our group?
I think you covered us, Brooke.
And again, thank you to I want a particular shout out to the Mary Baldwin group who in the process of developing the retreat agenda model with us, when we suggested one particular approach in terms of note taking, you're like, oh, no, 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 you should really came up with a completely much better model. So when I say we want to hear from you, we want to hear your suggestions, this is now going to get rolled out for everybody else. So thank you. Thank you, Mary Baldwin. Other institutions.
I do have feedback that I think would help others in their retreat. Our subcommittee leads have really struggled with some of the instructions that we've given them on what we're expecting them to come into the retreat with, as far as reporting out from their subcommittees. So I think touching base with them after our retreat will help us to give really clear instructions for other universities, subcommittee leaders, so that they feel really confident about what they're being asked to bring into the retreat. So, because we've had a lot of questions back and forth with that particular group of individuals.
Thank you. Thank you, Brooke. Anyone else? Observations, updates? Paige, would it be okay if I called on you? You are the newest member to this group as the new co-lead from Kentucky State. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Paige Davis. I'm a professional advisor at Kentucky State University, as you can see from my nice logo for the College of Ag and Health Sciences. So I just wanted to say thank you all for joining, allowing me to join you all during this time. We did make a little transition involving co-leads. It's me and my other counterpart, Mr. Haskins, Mr. Travis Haskins from KSU. But yes, I'm excited. I'm about to say currently we're still looking for additional parts and nuances with our program, and we're trying to get started. I would love to hear the ideas that y'all started on and how y'all found your other committee members, things of that nature, and what will be utilized going forward for us. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Paige. See, the rest of you are now experts. You get to be called upon to share that expertise. So Kentucky State, LSU, Mary Baldwin. Do we have hear from someone from Bellarmine or Frank Phillips?
Yeah, I'm from Bellarmine. Hello. Sorry, I've been having issues with this working, but we have met with our steering committee, and now we have the How and What committee just getting started on getting some work done. But we are going into obviously summer season right now, and so a lot of faculty's off, but we're looking to jump all back into it in August.
And I'll add for Jenny, they recently did their launch a few weeks ago, and their survey is actually open right now. So they're hoping to get some, so far the response rates are pretty good. So we're hoping to get some really great input from the advisees as well as the advisors who are taking the survey. Oh, and there was very positive receipt of the mission draft as well. So
Yes, yep.
kudos to the steering committee.
Thank you.
And I don't mind adding, so recently, like Jenny was able to present that information to our academic affairs leadership teams. That includes our provost, our associate provost, our deans, and our chairs. So all of them were there to kind of see that draft mission statement, and we requested feedback from that draft. So Jenny did a great job presenting that information. Nancy York, or one of our Gardner liaisons, has asked us to present it again, possibly, maybe me, maybe Jenny, maybe both of us. But people are well receiving to have a full mission for the entire university around academic advising. Currently, it's just for our first year student advising and our transfers, but for us to have a full 4-year advising mission that will help us to kind of spearhead what we do with advising next at the university. So we're looking forward to the work. And then, like Jenny said, our why and what, or what and how, sorry, committees will be meeting soon this week to kind of explore the questions in the platform and think deeper about advising at Bellarmine. So thank you all. That's all I had to add.
And then I'm Michelle from Frank Phillips College, and we had our meeting with Vicki yesterday going over our iPads data and stuff like that. Our how and why committees have been vigorously meeting and working on the KPIs. We're still working on our overall data upload, and hopefully since summer is starting, we can get that knocked out pretty quickly.
Thank you, Michelle. All right. And again, thank you all for the updates in terms of how the process is going. Again, any other thoughts or observations from the field about what's working or
I think the platform's super helpful and helps us organize things in a practical way to get the tasks accomplished. Our challenge right now is just time and it's peak advising, so to be expected. But overall, I think how you got it set up is really helpful for our teams. And of course, the people, all of you, helping us as well.
well, it is such it's a joy to be able to work with such institutional teams who are really willing to dig in and do this work. It is so critically important for the success of our students, and when done right, can be so fantastic for the institutional culture as a whole. All right, I will see if the gods of sharing are with me again. Woohoo! Okay. All right. So we wanted to do a little bit of more of a quick presentation and some sharing of some models, just to give you some things to be thinking about in terms of the whole model of purpose-driven advising and advising redesign. Just as a kind of a recap, when we're talking about purpose-driven advising, we're talking about when we think about what the advising ecosystem and the advisors themselves have to offer, it comes from the work from relationship-rich education. What we are hoping that advisees experience is drawn from Tinto's work on models of motivation and persistence. And when we're exploring what learning needs to be integrated, this is where we are talking about your disciplinary, your interdisciplinary, your course co-curricular and life, career, and post-completion curricula. We have many formal curricula and informal curricula on our campuses. And this is actually saying perhaps we need to be more conscious about about how we have our students integrate all of that those experiences throughout their time with us. So on the side of what the advising ecosystem advisors should offer, the system and the advisors, we speak about the four elements from Felton and Lambert's work, that it has to be about genuine and relentless welcome and care. That means that students should feel welcomed every time they interact, and that the interaction should feel genuine, not transactional. That this is about an actual opportunity to sit with someone virtually or face to face who truly wants to explore with you who you are and who you want to become, and what you are doing in your time at your institution to achieve that. We talk about the fact that advisors should be constantly driving learning and the inspiration to learn. That this is the opportunity for students to continually be able to learn, that they can pick themselves up, that even that last test that they failed, what did they learn about their study strategies? What did they learn about about their interest areas? everything becomes that opportunity to learn and can feed that inspiration for learning. And advisors are so perfectly placed to be able to offer that. Critically, advisors are there to help students explore meaning and purpose. And when it comes to meaning and purpose, thank you, Christopher, for sharing the link to the Relationship Rich. The meaning and purpose, that is the heart of much of what advisors are doing in the advising relationship. What are you learning this semester? How is it contributing to where you want to go, what you want to do with this? How can this apply to your life? And then critically, advisors need to facilitate students' development of their web of significant relationships, how they're going to build their networks of support of others on and off campus. On the flip side of that, what we're hoping, what advisees experience, drawn from Tinto's work, is that they increasingly develop that sense of self-efficacy, a growth mindset that's centered around, I can do this work, I can learn, I can be a college student, I can grow, I can learn from my failures and continue to grow. That they'll experience a sense of belonging, that they are finding themselves both in their relationship, a sense of belonging with their advisor, but also through the advisor's help in finding that network of supportive others and exploring the meaning of what it is that they're doing, that they're feeling that I do belong here, and I do belong in this program, and I do belong with these people. And finally, and critically, their personal connection to the curriculum and their sense of purpose. Why I'm taking these courses matter because they are going to help me accomplish the following goals and help me take this next step in my pathway in terms of what I want to do and what I want to accomplish in my life. And then finally, it's the area of the curricula. We know that formally academic advising has always been focused on both the disciplinary or pathway curriculum, as well as the interdisciplinary or general education curriculum, and the importance of students getting the most out of those two curricula. But at many of our institutions, formally or informally, we've also begun to establish co-curricular and life success curriculum. Sometimes this is associated with the general curriculum. Some states are requiring financial literacy courses, for example. I consider that part of the life success curriculum. But it's all those leadership opportunities and professional skills development opportunities and just growth opportunities that students have both in the residential and the online environment when engaged opportunities are offered for them to explore what they need to develop to be successful. And finally, there is the career and post-completion success curriculum. This is newer for many campuses. A number of our two-year and technical colleges have been exploring this intentionally for a number of years. It is making its way into the four-year and even the R1 institution curricula much more aggressively in the last 4 to 5 years, and it is what has made it onto absolutely every national organization and every higher education organization's call to action in the last 3 to 4 years about the importance of embedding into the students' undergraduate experience the development of competencies that will enable them to be successful. Some of those competencies are already embedded into some of your general education requirements, but we know that communication competency is more than having passed a writing course. What else does it mean? We know that the ability to work in teams is something that is engaged in many of our courses, but is it actually formally evaluated and assessed? The QA Commons have their essential employability skills, and the NACE competencies are two models of a set of competencies that, based upon research with employers and graduate schools, have identified that these are all skills that our students need to come to us with beyond just their curricular competencies. They need to have these competencies as well. going to share with you just a few models of some institutional approaches for doing this sort of work and for incorporating and integrating those curricula. We know that this can happen in the individual advising practice by the work of individual advisors who reach out to work with all their appropriate colleagues across campus in all of the necessary student success offices, financial aid offices, career offices, et cetera. But there are some institutions that are exploring models of doing this in a more focused and institutional model and not having to rely on the initiative of just the single individual advisor. There are curriculum embedded examples where this is embedded into major disciplinary curriculum, where for example, career competencies might be built into major requirements at the first year, sophomore, junior, and senior level. There are institutions that are embedding this into their general education and interdisciplinary curriculum, particularly where they have the opportunity to do so with blanketed seminars in the first year and the senior year. There are institutions that are exploring this through center-based models, some that I'm calling co-residential, because it's really more about everybody moves into the same building, not necessarily integrating what they're doing, versus models where this work is being more fully integrated amongst the staff. And then there are models of career communities that involve active partnerships between academic advising and academic affairs and academic departments and career and the Career Services Office. We'll be providing these slides for you afterwards, but just for example, wanting to share with you, there are links here to examples of each of these in the curriculum embedded examples. Generally, these are course embedded exploration and reflection and planning opportunities so that while the advisor is still actively involved and connecting the students with this, the intensive work on exploration and reflection and such is often built into assignments related to the courses. They have course-linked curricular outcomes and course-associated experiential and capstone experiences. At some institutions, these are required for every student. At others, they are optional. We've provided some examples of major disciplinary examples at Brevard College. There's the Brevard Career Advantage Program. If you have any questions, you can turn to Brandon, who can give you all sorts of feedback on the Brevard Career Advantage Program because he was involved in helping launch that program at Brevard College. Murray State University, for example, is doing that with their music business major with selective majors. At Otterbein University, they have built this into their Integrative Studies General Education Program, which is a 4-year general education program. It involves those bookend seminars, and there's a link there to their READY program if you're interested in exploring how they are doing this sort of work with course-embedded exploration, reflection, and planning. The center-based models involve sharing minimally shared physical and electronic space. It will often include advising in career services and student success, sometimes also financial advising, sometimes also wellness. Center use may be elective or not. It depends on students. So for example, in the co-residential model, where you have multiple offices in one location, Cal State University Long Beach College of Education Student Success and Advising Center have co-located a number of resources. It's both academic advising and student success, and they have rotating staff who come in and keep hours there from their career center, from their financial aid office, from their student wellness services. A different model can be found from Washington State, their academic success and career center. It's a fully integrated model where all advisors and coaches are cross-trained to do this work with students. It's predominantly focused on the integration of advising, of academic and career advising. And then there are career community examples that involve partnerships between career services and multiple programs. These are usually elective models. Students can join multiple communities, so you might be in a business a career community, but you might also join the pre-medical career community because you're actually pre-med / business because you want to actually run a hospital so when you finish with all of this. Students have the opportunity to be in multiple communities. The focus tends to be industry focused. It involves structured career-related engagements. There's generally tailored advising, coaching, and workshops, and a lot of alumni engagement. And usually it'll involve someone in each of the career community areas in the career center, partnering with representatives from across multiple departments to ensure that they are both pulling in appropriate information from the advisors in those departments, in those major and disciplinary areas about what the programs want to ensure students are hearing about, as well as ensuring that they are delivering the industry career-focused workshops and preparation that they know that the employers and the graduate schools on the other end are interested in. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Brandon.
Thanks, Vicki. Before I jump into the slides, I know so many people on this call, and so I'm going to invite you to maybe respond to a question. And that question is this: how are your students currently connecting their experience at your institution with what happens after they leave? Like how can you name certain things that you are doing or that the institution is doing that helps students make that transition into whatever's next? And what do those look like, at least in the current state?
I'll say one thing we're starting to do, and different programs do it, more in depth than others. Joyce was a part of this, and Christopher and Michael, Lonnie, I believe too. We had NACE faculty staff fellows training.
Yep.
And so some of our faculty that attended chose a particular either assignment or course or activity to align with NACE career readiness competencies specifically, explicitly. Some are designing their syllabi around the NACE competencies, and then connecting each activity and assignment to some sort of competency to help them articulate their that and when they're looking for a role in the workforce. What we're doing in first year seminar is actually going over NACE competencies and helping them understand how to consider how each course might help them. Like, why do I need to take college algebra? Critical thinking, those kinds of things. So we're trying to give them an overview of what the importance of that is and why they have to take the courses that they take at that foundational kind of level. But a lot of our faculty are doing that in upper level courses too. And then co-curricular programs as well. What happens outside the classroom? It might be, it could be a counseling program or any other kind of student life program. How those outside classroom experiences also develop competencies and learn. So we do the learning outcomes associated with them. So we're trying to help students really explicitly see what the purpose is of those things.
Thanks, Angie. Other folks?
If you want an example of how it's embedded in a course, I can give you that.
Thanks, Joyce.
I teach a course for dyslexia for educators, and embedded in the course are 2 career competencies, critical thinking and problem solving, and career and self-development. So I'll just do the critical thinking and problem solving. It basically says in the workplace, you can expect to have students, so again, thinking workplace as elementary or middle school, right? So in the workplace, you can expect to have students who have diverse learning needs, and you will be expect to meet those needs. Doing so will require you to consider the student's strengths and weaknesses and tailor instruction to help your students. In this course, you will demonstrate this career readiness competency by analyzing a case study for a student in your certification grade band and determine their strengths and areas of need based on data and determine appropriate accommodations for that learner. So it's kind of how they're seeing it. My students, like they had assignments where they had to make connections between what they were learning and what they've already learned before and what they're seeing in the classrooms. And so they were tying that stuff in to some of the reflections, which I thought was pretty cool since it was the first time I had done that.
That's cool, Joyce. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm happy to speak up.
Yeah, please go ahead,
and
Brooke. That'd be
Carrie,
great.
please jump in. So we piloted our first neighborhood 2 falls ago and launched the neighborhoods this past fall. So all of our first year students come in a neighborhood. So the neighborhoods are kind of around industry areas, not a declared major, but education and society, for example. And depending on what major they think they're interested in, they'll start in that neighborhood and kind of align their learning with that area. As a career professional, that is music to my ears because it gets them thinking early on about where they see themselves using that degree in the future. And then this fall, we are launching the skills portfolio. When we talk about the NACE competencies, there's a lot of lineup with the skills portfolio in the NACE competencies, but not exclusively. They don't, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. And the students will choose which skills stacks to pursue that complement their degree. So if I am a marketing major and I want to make sure that I'm working on the data side of marketing, data fluency might be the skills stack that I obtain that complements my degree that shows a deeper level of skill and competency in that particular area that I'm more marketable and competitive for those database marketing jobs would be a good example for that. And so we're currently designing in the career services office a way for those skills stacks to be exhibited on their resume where it's really clear, self-explanatory for the student. So whether it's during the paper part of the application process or the interview part of the application process, they know how to speak to it.
Cool.
Do your neighborhoods have co-curricular components too?
Yeah, Carrie,
Yes.
you want to jump in? I don't want to take up all the room. Yes, they have events that they attend together that are outside of the classroom. Last fall, some of them went on mini field trips at the very beginning of their neighborhood experience to local, whether it was an employer or whether it was local nonprofit that might be aligned with their particular neighborhood as well. Carrie, what other co-curricular
Yeah, and then we
engagements will
also
they have?
have campus-wide signature events that are applicable to all students, but they count towards their neighborhood co-curricular. So that gives them exposure to the other areas of campus, to the other options they have. It gives them exposure to the other neighborhoods. And they're all invited to attend other neighborhood events. Well, not all of them. Some of them are really neighborhood specific, they're exclusive, but most of them are inclusive and any student can go. But the students, the first year students who are a part of the neighborhood are required to attend some of those events, some of those co-curriculars. And then we also have a residential component. So we have the more academically oriented co-curriculars. We also have some residential co-curriculars. We have our RAs and our orientation leaders are aligned by their majors. So we assign orientation leaders and RAs by what neighborhood they would have been in had they come in under the neighborhood system. And this year, we'll be incorporating some of our residential programming around some of those co-curricular efforts from the neighborhoods.
And then on the skills portfolio side, we're currently developing ways for students to build their skill stacks, both in the curriculum, in the academic space, but also co-curricular through internships or leadership roles on campus or service opportunities, so that they're not just obtaining those skills for the skills stack in the classroom, but also outside of it.
And those leadership roles include RAs, SGA students, peer tutors, peer advisors, TAs, any position that is that's related to leadership of any sort is going to fall into that.
That's really cool. Those are two really great examples that I think nest into sort of the theory of change that I'm about to jump into. But before we share the slides, I just want to explain a little bit of why we think that these questions are so critical and live at least probably most logically in the advising space. As we think about when your students join you and they enter the institution, most of them expect to either get further education or a job when they finish. But there is a chasm between where they are and where they want to be. And the 4 years at the institution, at least I think, in my experience serving in a couple of schools, is meant to help them build a bridge between where they are and where they're going. Because at a certain point, they won't be with you. They will have to be somewhere else. And making that transition as seamless and as clear as possible through the 4 year experience is sort of the ideal. And yet, when we talk to students, or when I speak with students, a lot of times, it is piecemeal at best. It sounds like LSUS and Mary Baldwin are already making great strides to make that clearer. But to that end, that idea of trying to provision students to apply their passion and purpose either to a job or to further education was sort of the impetus for the development of this sort of second optional phase of advising. So, Vicky, do you want me to share the screen on this end? Yeah, let me do that. So, forgive me, I got to move things over just a little bit. And hit slideshow. So, as we think about this, we're bandying about the term career curriculum because it's better than calling it advising 1.5, but we're not quite sure what we're gonna call it. But the plan for this is that it should not take a huge amount of time to clarify sort of the current state at your institution related to provisioning students for postgraduate success. And then developing an improvement plan if you've got one. And then the final step is this mapping of milestones. So the way we do this, there's a tool called the eScan. It's a survey. It doesn't take a terribly long period of time to complete, but you can either deploy it at the program level, like by major. You could deploy it against your general education. You could deploy it against a co-curricular program, right? So you can deploy it in any of those three areas to the faculty and or staff that are serving in that area, and then use the results from that to have a sense making of sorts. During that sense making meeting, it will be familiar to you. It's about 6 hours. It's a SWOT analysis. And ideally, by the end of that day, you've recognized where you want to build capacity. The third step in this is what we call milestone mapping. And this is bespoke to the institution. But essentially, it's a single document that is, surprise if you know me, it's a spreadsheet, but can be used to develop a PDF. It can actually build a database. At Brevard College, we use it to build a database. But ultimately, it clarifies for the student and for the advisor and or faculty the things that the institution sees as the most critical learning or experience associated with postgraduate success. And it gives us a measure of how we will know whether or not we're hitting the mark with our students. So as you're thinking about this, this is a process that can be completed honestly in a term or less. We also bring in data from things like the post-secondary, what is PSEO? Post-secondary education outcomes. There we go, Brandon. And other areas as appropriate. We're in the state of California, we're about to launch some of this work, and we're trying to align it with some work that's also sort of statewide. So there's an opportunity to sort of make this bespoke to the needs of the institution, but give you a means by which you can track student progress and also assess the actual theory of change that is the series of, whether it's in a program or whether it's, the neighborhoods, assess whether they're actually leading to employment over time. So the eScan, just so you know what's involved in that, it's Qualtrics based, only takes, it's open for 2 weeks. We'll write a report, and then that will sort of serve to inform the meeting that would happen at your institution. Again, can be for academic programs, gen ed, or for co-curricular spaces. In the focus group and the qualitative discussion, we're asking for a month after the surveys close to get all that together, share that with your advising leadership team, make sure that it's designed in a way that serves where you are, because it sounds like, at least for some of the institutions, if you wanted to do this, you're pretty far down the road. This might even serve as a way to design your assessment model, but preferably the meetings in person. And it's 6 hours, as I mentioned earlier. It will be familiar to you if you've done other sense-making meetings with us. But the hope is that by the end of that meeting, your team has a really clear set of drivers and ideas for how you can better support postgraduate success and actually measure that at scale at your institution, which is I think, at least for me, one of the hardest things to do. Because once students hop out to whatever's next, they're harder to connect with. The milestone mapping has NACE core competencies built into it. We highly recommend, and I'm skipping to the last bullet here, but that you start with 2 to 4 key milestones per term, right? So no more than 8 a year, preferably probably like 4 a year. But asking yourself, if we say that engagement in these neighborhoods is really critical, are there certain artifacts, are there certain learning experiences that come out of that we think are portable and should be really talked about more than once, and that the student should be able to say, this thing is useful to me in this way? Like, what does that look like? Where does it live? And then what is our measure to assess not just the completion of this thing, like the process measure that students did it, but that it's actually having the desired impact? Like I said, it's all done in a spreadsheet. And if you want to align to, say, like your institutional mission, we can do that too. So there are lots of ways to make this bespoke. At Brevard College, they had their own principles and structures associated with the idea of supporting career readiness. And so they actually tagged different activities based on those principles that they had developed themselves. I'll be brief here. We'll load everything in the evidence library, make it available to your team, and then work with you to translate those milestone spreadsheets into something that you can share with students, faculty, or staff to ensure that you can actually sort of project manage this. Because again, if this is across multiple majors and multiple areas, it can become very big very quickly, right? And so really asking your faculty and staff what's most critical, and then finding some ways to measure whether or not that's actually working is, I think, the magic of this. Because it's one thing to say, put this in your e-portfolio and never look at it again. It's another to turn that artifact into something that is really meaningful, that students are using as they are applying for jobs, or that helps them figure out, what job they might do after they leave the institution. So we'll share more examples of this if this is an area you're interested in. But we just wanted to share it as an option. Some institutions didn't do the advising section that you all are doing, but chose to just do this milestone mapping bit. But this is something that's available to you all, if you're interested in it. And I'd be happy to set one-on-one meetings with any institution to kind of talk you through a little bit more detail on the process and show you some examples of the outputs that come from this.
So I will just say quickly, Brandon has kind of said this, but I just want to reiterate, this is really what I would consider to be kind of like a bolt-on option, right? This is something that if it's interesting to you, if it aligns with your institutional goals, it's a resource that we have that's available to you. And so along those lines, Brandon, if someone were thinking about timing, like, do you have any recommendations about, depending on where folks are in the advising redesign process, how might they know if they feel ready for this, or what kind of timing might you recommend for something like this?
Sure, Jess. So I would recommend, if you wanted to do something like this, that you did, depending on which of the levels you were interested in doing, that you had access to the staff or faculty that you might be engaging with. So, some of the schools we're working with are only mapping a handful of programs. So they're doing a co-curricular program and they're going through the milestone mapping. They're doing 2 or 3 of their majors, and they're doing, I can't remember the other program they're doing. But that's the way they've designed it because it's such a large institution. They know we're not going to be able to deploy this across every major tomorrow. That's not possible. But we can bring our faculty together and our staff teams together in the fall and launch this and have a retreat in the fall. So timing will be up to you and your institution, but a big part of this would be deciding what's the scope of work that you want to follow first, right? Do you want to take a handful of programs where you know there's an appetite for this or an interest? I think some of you have heard me say before, this really grows from some work that I did when I ran a theater program almost a decade ago, and we designed a set of milestones that yielded really high success rates. I mean, every student left the institution like on graduation day, all but one kid over almost a decade left with a job in the industry or a full ride to grad school. And it wasn't anything we were doing. It was that the students knew how to leverage their milestones and their experiences. So that's a big part of, if you're thinking about this, if there are certain programs where you want to increase postgraduate success or where you know there's some appetite, this would be a good way to add some structure around that and do it, I think, in ways that are bite-sized, right? You can make this as big or as small as you want to start and prove the concept. So I don't know if that's helpful, Jess, but definitely launch this at a time when your team has some bandwidth. This is probably not a summer launch if you want to include faculty and they're off contract.
Okay, we have 8 minutes left, and we did want to bring you back for 1 minute for a quick discussion about summer scheduling, but we could also defer that till next month if we need to. You've been invited to a breakout room. You can see the questions in front of you, and we'll copy and paste them into the chat as well. We'll bring you back at 1 minute before the end. So have a good discussion. Thanks, Brandon.
Sure thing, Vicki.
And Brandon, I didn't have you put you in a room because you're a co-host, and I did not have that control.
No worries. I'm good.
So you can join or not. It looks like room 2 just says Carrie.
I can hop over there. I'm going to pause the recording.